travel, music, pets, men, women, life in progress. Welcome to Let's Talk. Hey there, welcome back to Let's Talk. Jamie here, your host. We have yet another magical musical episode for all of you because we have an amazing events host and singer-songwriter with us this afternoon. He is blessed with an amazing voice, not only for hosting gigs, but also especially for singing. And yes, I'm a big fan of his singing abilities, but I'm an even bigger fan of his songwriting skills. He just tugs at your heartstrings, and we'll get to witness that later on. Today, we'll get to know what his musical journey has been like and his inspiration for creating music that really makes a difference. I'm so honored to share his story with all of you today. We have singer-songwriter and events host whose notable works include Kahit Kunwari Man Lang, interpreted by Agsunta and Moira de la Torre, also World Championship of Performing Arts 2019 multi-gold medalist and triple division champion, none other than David Mercado. Welcome to Let's Talk, David. How are you?
Hi, how are you? Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for saying yes. I know there are so many things going on for you right now, but I'm just so grateful you have the time to be with us today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm really happy that I'm here. And someone just decided to join us today.
I love
This
that.
is
What's this?
Lucia.
Is it a girl? Lucille.
Yeah, Lucia.
Okay. How
Lucia.
old is Lucia? How old is Lucia,
Lucia
David?
is turning two, actually, turning two in a few weeks.
Oh, she's adorable. Is she your only pup or do you have more than one?
I had another one, but we had him adopted by my husband's sister.
Okay. Well, Lucia, it's so nice of you to join your dad as well for this podcast. And we'll both enjoy your dad singing later on. But before we dive into his performances for today, yes, guys, that's something we can look forward to for this episode. David will be singing two songs for us today. But beyond that, we'll also get to know what his musical journey has been like, as I mentioned earlier, and his inspiration behind his beautiful songs. But like all episodes of Let's Talk, David, we start off with rapid fire questions. So I hope you're okay with this. To begin our episode for today, I'm going to ask you quick questions, and all you have to do is give me answers that are 1 to 3 words quickly. I won't react, but this will just give our viewers and listeners a glimpse of who you are. Are you okay with that?
Yes, looking forward to
Er,
it.
Okay. Rapid fire questions. First song you remember singing.
I don't know the title, but at the cross. Where am I? At the cross. Yeah, at the cross.
At the Cross. Okay. Favorite international singer?
Coldplay.
Oh, I love them. Have you ever seen them perform? I know I'm not
N-
supposed to react, but not yet.
Not yet.
Okay. Favorite singer in the Philippines?
Jed Madela.
Beautiful voice. When I hear his
Perfect
voice, I feel like
pitch.
I'm in heaven.
hmm
Favorite song? Only
Angel by
one.
Sarah McLachlan.
Oh, I love your choices, David. Favorite songwriter? Aside from you, of course. I know you write beautiful songs, but favorite songwriter?
Natasha Bedingfield.
We really are from the same age range. Okay, what about your favorite genre, if you have any?
Gospel.
Mm. Were you a part of Glee Club growing up?
I was in grade
Mm.
school and high school. Oh, I think a little bit in college as well.
Favorite decade for music?
It has to be the 90s.
Mm.
Biased towards the 90s.
Yeah. Best singer. You mentioned earlier that Jed is perfect when it comes to his range. But for you, who's the
Mhm.
best singer in terms of technicality?
Oh, it's still Jed.
Jed. Jed.
hmm
Angel's voice.
hmm
Favorite song to perform?
Right now, it's never enough. Just because can I explain?
Yeah,
Just
of course,
because
of course.
Yeah, when you're given just one slot or something like that, 1 to 2 songs, you want to do something that's memorable. Especially for me,
Mm-hmm.
that's an events host. So I do something that is big and grand, and never enough usually fits the description.
Mm,
Greatest showman. Yeah.
yeah, Lauren Allred, right? Am I remembering
Mm-hmm.
her name right?
Correct.
Favorite song you've written? I have a favorite of yours. I mean, that you've written, but I'll tell you later on. What's your favorite?
Wow. Actually, right now it should be Balang Araw, which was released
Mm,
independently. But yeah,
mm. I'm not supposed to ask why that, but why Balang Araw, David?
it's a one is that it was the first song that I wrote after going on a hiatus, on like a rest period of not writing for many years. I wrote it,
Mm,
and then it was a song that it's a song that talks about dreams, actually, that someday someone will recognize these gifts,
mm.
and someone will hear it, and someone will love it. And surprisingly, although it was released independently, I always get like notifications on my email that it's still being streamed on different countries that I never thought would be listening to my song, like Australia, Ireland, Canada. I'm like, who listens to
Wow.
my song in these places? So makes me
Especially
happy.
when it's in Tagalog, right? Amazing, amazing.
True.
Okay.
Hmm.
What about your favorite band? You mentioned Coldplay earlier, but what's your favorite
Hmm.
band? Is it Coldplay or another band?
It has to be Coldplay.
Mm.
In the Philippines, I don't know. I'm not sure. There's just a lot. But if it's banned on the top of my head, it has to be Coldplay.
Now I know one of my favorite singers from the Philippines has sung your song. I mentioned the song earlier.
Hmm.
But in an ideal world, if you could, who's your ideal musician to collaborate with? And you have the choice of choosing an international singer or local singer. Who would it be, David?
Oh my gosh. That's a hard question. Surprisingly hard. Who would I want to collaborate with? If it were female, it has to be Regine Velasquez.
Mm,
Maybe because of the similarity of our styles and genre. For
hmm
male singer, mm, in the Philippines, it still has to be Jed.
Have you worked with Jed before?
I have, but not on originals. I've joined him in his concerts, as
Hmm
one of the performers for his concerts. In his recent concert in Camarines Sur, I was one of the performers there as well, and I did some backup vocals for him as well.
I asked that because I remember seeing pictures of both of you on your Facebook page. So, this is our last rapid fire question for you today, David. Who's your biggest inspiration when it comes to music?
My dad, my
Mm,
papa, he died in 2015, but he was my first musical influence because he was the one in our family that was musically inclined. He played the guitar, and he knew how to do harmonies and all that.
Okay, let's get into that now. Thank you so much for obliging me and answering these rapid fire questions. I just really wanted to get a glimpse of who you are musically and also give our listeners and viewers out there a glimpse of that as well. But let's go back to the past. What struck me most with one of your answers is when you said Balang Araw is your favorite song.
Hmm.
My favorite is Pantayan. I told you that before we started this interview, but you mentioned that Balang Araw is about your dreams and knowing that someday these passions in your life and these dreams will become a reality. So let's go back to where it all started, this dream of being a musician, David, because you're very inspiring now. When did you first start singing? Was it always your thing?
I started singing even as a child because we're very. I come from a very conservative, religious family where we went to church almost every day. It was a Christian family, a Christian church. I mean, we were
Mhm.
there. Tuesdays would be prayer meeting. Thursdays would be midweek Bible study. Saturdays we'd have youth ministry. Yeah, and other days
Mm.
of the week
Wow.
we'd still have like activities in church. And Sunday morning would be um, Sunday school, and then in the afternoon we'd have the church proper. My entire childhood and teenage life would be defined as being in church, and the heaviest participation in the ministries of the church that I belonged to was in the music ministry. I was part of the worship team. So even back
Mm.
then, I used to write songs, gospel songs most of the time. That's why when you asked me earlier about like what's my favorite genre, it has to be gospel. Maybe because I grew up with that. It's the type of
Mm.
music I like listening to and I grew up with. Even when you asked me the first song that I learned how to sing, it's At the Cross. That was the song that my mom used to sing to me when I was um, yeah, when I was a child. She'd sing At the Cross. It's funny because back then my mom would sing that song, but I didn't understand what it meant. So
Mm.
at the cross, where my burdens flew away. And I always thought, wow, the birds flew away at the cross. The birds. I'm like, what's bird? Because I didn't know what burden means.
Yeah.
Burdens. Yeah, birds flew away. Yeah.
I've never heard that song, and I didn't wanna ask earlier during the rapid fire question, but it's good to know that it's something from church, and it's
Mm.
also amazing that throughout the whole week, your family would go to church all the time, and this is what instilled that love for music for you because your participation was in the music ministry. But did you always know that you had the talent in singing? It's one thing to be forced to sing when you have to attend these gatherings, but did you know you were amazing at it, David? That you were talented in it?
um, I discovered it by myself because I was told a lot that I didn't know. I was bullied a lot. Like every time, I had
Hmm.
this bully cousin before that anything that I get myself into or anything that I do, he'd always say that I was bad at it. I shouldn't try it. He kept on saying that, and so I've always thought that
Hmm.
I wasn't good at anything at all. So even with singing, he'd say that it was wrong. I didn't sound good until this one time we had this cassette player and remember back in the 90s we would like record our voices using the cassette tapes, yeah,
Mm.
using the pencil and all that.
Yeah, I remember that.
So what I did was I recorded my voice singing the male part of using a I forgot what it's called. I think it's multiplex. That's what we have for a minus one. That's what you can compare to a minus one these days. So multiplex, I think. Yes. So it's a like a karaoke version. So I sang the male part, recorded that, and then when my family was there and other cousins was there, I played it, and they really thought it was the original. So then I
Wow.
realized, hey, I have the talent for this. Yeah,
I hope
and
you kept that tape. I hope you
I
kept it.
don't
I
have it anymore.
Oh.
Yeah.
Do you remember how old you were when that happened?
Ah, elementary days.
You were very young when you
Yes.
realized that, hey, if they think that it's the original artist, then I can sing. I can really sing
Mm-hmm.
well.
Mm-hmm.
And then how did that transform or evolve into I want to be a musician? Did it take years or at that moment did you know I want to do music for a living?
Um, I don't know. For me, I just did what made me happy. It wasn't really
Mhm.
something that I didn't really have goals back then when I was young. I just did what made me happy. I was having fun with things. Um, yeah, so I kept on singing. I joined singing competitions. Um, but it only dawned on me that I had to take it seriously was when my dad was diagnosed with cancer
Mhm.
back in 2013. He was diagnosed in 2013. He died in 2015. It was in those
Wow, that was
years.
quick.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
quick and painful because he was like in pain 24/7.
Yeah.
And in those years I felt useless, that I couldn't
Mm.
contribute to his medical bills, his hospitalization. And I wanted to make his life comfortable. I remember so well, so vividly, wanting to buy him a massage chair. I saw it
Mm.
at the mall. It was 15,000. I couldn't even afford that. So
That's a lot of money, David. I mean, yeah.
yeah, but I couldn't afford anything for my dad, and I couldn't really contribute to the family because I was doing things, a lot of things pro bono. So back in the
Mm.
province where I was from, where I am from, Cagayan de Oro City, I had like meager TF, sometimes 500, sometimes 1,015, and then rarely get 3,000. And I remember also like most of the time, most of the time
Mm.
it's zero TF, just some snacks backstage, or they'll tell
Mm.
you just exposure and all that. So I had nothing at all. So it was
Mm-hmm.
when I realized that I couldn't contribute. Like what have I been doing with my life? I couldn't give my family anything, and I've been wasting my time just singing for what? For fun. I need to do something with my life. That's why I decided, hey, if I wanna expand my horizons and make something out of my talent, I had to go
Mm.
somewhere that this talent would be valued, and where I could
Yeah.
grow and find opportunities and meet people and just really establish myself. And that's why in 2015 I moved to Metro Manila.
Mm. Okay. And let's take a look at that journey. You were thrust into a situation where you had to answer questions about what you should be doing with your life, and you realize, hey, I have the talent. I'm going to take it seriously and do
Hmm.
something with it. You moved to Manila
Hmm.
in 2015. And how did you make it happen? Because, David, come on, look at where you are now. I mean,
Ah,
these songs you've written, the artists who have performed them, you performing them as well. You have so many stories to tell, and you've made it happen, David. But what was the journey like? How did you get from 2015, I feel like I'm not doing anything with my life, to now, where you've written such beautiful songs and you're here? How did you make that happen?
I made that happen by taking one day at a time, meeting one
Mm,
person at a time, taking one opportunity at a time, and valuing the lessons in every opportunity, valuing the friendships and the connections that are made in every opportunity. Um, uh, when I got married, or we had this union ceremony back in 2018. Well,
mm-hmm,
even before that, wait, little rollback. Before that, I marketed myself. I promoted myself on social media and invested a little bit of money just so I could promote myself to organizers and coordinators in Metro Manila. I had a
mm-hmm.
very low TF talent fee, but it was good enough for me. It was way more than what I was making in CDO. But so
CDO, yeah.
yeah, so what I did was I marketed myself, promoted myself, and then I did my best. And every time I got booked, even though it was a small TF, I did my best because I wanted to impress not just the clients but also the organizers, the coordinators. And it was for every single opportunity I had, I just gave it my all, and I always made sure that I went the extra mile. I went the extra
Mm,
mile. Like I was only tasked to host, but I would also sing for free,
wow.
and I would do some other stuff like give them. I would create videos for them, for the couple, or
Mm,
and stuff like that. I just went the extra mile because I wanted to be remembered, and it bore
mhm.
fruit because the coordinators, the organizers, they remembered me, and they kept on hiring me. I had this network. I kept on building my network, and my network grew and grew. One of these was this coordinator that happened to uh, like this coordinator became my friend, and then she ended up working with ABS-CBN.
Mhm.
So and then she was also the one we hired for our wedding back in 2018. And
Uh-huh.
then in 2020, No, actually submitted it 2019, but the competition started in 2020. Himighandog, the ABS-CBN songwriting competition, the largest songwriting competition. Um, my song got shortlisted. Actually, two of them, and then one made it to the grand finals.
Wow.
And surprisingly, it wasn't because of my friend, but my friend who was there was like super proud of, oh my gosh, you made it here. And it's what a small world. We're meeting each other and we're here. And
Mm.
because we already had that history, it was easier to
Mm-hmm.
connect. And we're like, and she was like,
Mm.
since you're already here, maybe you could make more songs. So even after the competition, I kept on
Wow.
communicating with them, and I presented songs to them. A lot of it got rejected, but my foot was at the door already. So
Yeah.
to 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 just wrap this experience up with your question, so how did I do it? Basically, it's taking every opportunity to heart and giving your best, going the extra mile every time and making the most of it, not just wasting it,
Mm-hmm.
like not just like taking it like you have a gig now, just sing and then you go. No, but to
Giving it your
maximize the
best.
opportunity, make friends, build
Mm-hmm.
connections, and give your best, and always
Mm-hmm.
um, strive to impress, strive
Mm-hmm.
to make a mark so that you're remembered. So even after the event, people will still try looking for you.
And you definitely have made a mark in this industry. I mean, 2 decades of hosting, right? And
Almost two
also
decades.
singing, almost 2 decades of hosting. And, I said in the beginning of this podcast, this will be a magical musical discussion. I say that now again because I find that that journey partly was magical too, David. I really believe that sometimes you meet people for a reason. And
Mm-hmm.
even with that lady you met who ended up working for ABS CBN, she became a bridge somewhat for you to
Mm-hmm.
keep presenting songs to them. And I find that really inspiring. And also,
Mm.
I love that you just kept putting it out there. I also believe that, like you just have to keep telling the universe that this is what I want. Because
I
I
believe that
can
too.
relate to that.
Mm.
We're from the same hometown, by the way, guys. If you don't already know, I'm also from Cagayan de Oro City, and that is what our connection is. We've
I've
never,
always, let me just put it out there. I've always looked up to you, even when I was in CDO, of course.
I wish I could sing like you though. Oh my gosh. But I'm a silent fan of people like you who go for it, who are so brave and who make things happen. I can relate to your story in the sense that you had to start all over when you went to Manila and you made it happen by proclaiming it to the universe. This is what I want. It will happen and it did happen. Let's talk about love a bit there because you mentioned Rai and Rai is a big part of who you are. I'm just
Yes.
curious if you don't mind me asking, when did you meet him? I understand now that you were in CDO in 2013 to 2015, right? That's when your dad was sick and you moved only to Manila in 2015. Is that when you
Mm.
met Rai?
Yes, because I didn't know a lot of people in Manila, and it's a big city to be lonely. Uh, so I went on a
It's true.
dating app on my first
Uh-huh.
week.
Yeah. On
On my
your
first
first
week,
week on
of
that dating
course,
app or first week in Manila?
first
Are
week
you
in
okay to
Manila,
share what dating app that was?
grinder.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah, so he was also going through something that time. He was lonely, he was alone in the condo, and we were both of us lived in the same condominium or condo building. And
Mm.
so he was
Hence the
lonely, I was
location
lonely.
on Grinder.
Yes. um so yeah, he was lonely, I was lonely, we met, and then what's interesting is because we were both lonely, we enjoyed each other's company. And
Mm.
it wasn't something like like a random hookup. It wasn't something like that. It was more like we built a friendship, because the first day we met, we were just talking. We had dinner and we
Mm.
enjoyed talking over wine, and that's something that our relationship, I would say, is founded on communication. We
Mhm.
like talking, so even after 7 years, we're still like that. We like to talk a lot.
Wow. I'm so glad you found each other. Again, another magical moment for you there. And we know how that ended up, right? I mean, you got married,
Hmm.
and a lot of people know your love story. How does Rise support your musical career as your friend on Facebook, because we know each other. I see that he's a big supporter of yours, but can you tell us how he is a part of this musical journey of yours?
He's my number one fan. you
Oh,
know, I don't know. I've never had. I mean, I love my family so much, but I've never had someone who's like super crazy about my talent that whatever happens, he will be there. Even when I competed in the US for the World Championships of Performing Arts back in 2019, he flew with me. Considering that
wow.
I mean, companions are allowed if you're a parent to a minor, but
Mhm.
but he was allowed. So a lot of people thought actually he was my parent. Oh my
Oh
gosh,
dear.
we just laugh it out. But but yeah, so he's like that in everything I do. He's like, when he's on, when we're on a long drive, he puts on his phone on the Bluetooth, he connects it to the Bluetooth, and he has a playlist of just all my songs. He's like that. And
That's amazing.
when I feel discouraged, and I don't feel like writing or singing at all, he's the one who encourages me. That he wants to listen to me, he wants to hear me again, and all that.
And he loves you so much, he'll even say yes to performing with you and
Yes, I
releasing a
had to do
song
a
with you.
lot of convincing though.
Must have taken a lot of convincing considering he's
hmm
not in the field. But speaking of Rai being your number one fan, David, he's not alone in really adoring your music. I also think you write such meaningful songs and you sing beautifully. What a talent you
Thank you.
have. So I promised our viewers and listeners that you'll be performing two songs. Are you ready to share one song with us now?
Yes.
Okay, tell us about what song you're going to perform and why you chose it. And I'll give the virtual floor over to you. I'll leave this rain for a bit. The floor is yours, David.
Yeah, the first one I wanted to sing is called Kahit Kunwari Man Lang. It's the song that that won most streamed song on Himig 11th edition. It was originally, when I had it compete, it was interpreted by Moira de la Torre and Agsunta. I'm gonna do a
Mm,
solo version of the song, and I chose this because um, I really cried when this song was chosen, because I think this was the fulfillment of what I wrote in Balang Araw, which is
mm.
someday it's just gonna someone's gonna hear my music. And this song, although I did not sing it when it first came out, um, is meaningful to me because it's the first song that people actually listen to. I mean,
Mm.
the general public. Because I remember when I wrote this song, it was just Ryan and me, or my friends who listened to it in the car or at home. But now when I hear it on the radio or hear it at the mall, I feel like finally someone's listening to my work. It doesn't have to be me singing, just giving
Someone
attention to my
hears
art.
you.
Yeah. So I'm
Mhm.
gonna do
Take it
that.
take it away, David. I'm so excited. I'm so happy you chose this song. I love it too.
Thank you. Sa lihim mang pagtingin sa'yo, sa tago lang ang pag-ibig ko. Dahil sa lihim, hindi, hindi ka lalayo. Ngayon na may nagpapaligaya na, sa lihim na lang dinaon ng luha. Pinili maging masaya. Kahit kunwari man lang, inamin lang sanang nararamdaman. Kahit sandali man lang, sa iyong mga ngiti ako dahilan. Kahit saglit man lang, sana sinabi ngayon kung kaibigan lang. Kahit kunwari man lang, kahit kunwari man lang. Mga ngiti mo'y kaligayahan ko, lahat ng narating pinagdiriwang ko. Mga pangarap mo'y unti nabubuo. Sa bawat pag-angat nasa likod ng ako. Ngunit ngayon sa butong nito, hindi pa na ako ang katabi mo. Kahit kumari man lang, inamin lang sana nararamdaman. Kahit sandali man lang, sa iyong mga ngiti ako kahilang. Kahit saglit man lang, sana sinabi ngayong kaibigan na. Kahit kunwari man lang, kahit kunwari man lang. Nais ko sanang malaman, di mo ba minsan naramdaman na pagturing ay higit pa sa kaibigan? Pinili mo lang bang magbulag-bulagan kahit hindi mo kaya gantihan pa ang kaibigan? Hanggang dito na lang, kahit kumwari man lang, inamin lang sana nararamdaman. Kahit sandali man lang, sa iyong mga ngiti ako dahilan. Kahit kunwari man lang, inamin lang sana nararamdaman. Kahit sandali man lang, sa iyong mga ngiti ako dahilan. Kahit saglit man lang, sana sinabi ngayon kung kaibigan na. Kahit kunwari man lang, kahit kunwari man lang. Thank you.
David, wow. Wow, you're gonna bring me to tears here. That's amazing.
Thank you.
I I love how you write songs. It really tugs at the heartstrings. It really moves you. Just really breaks your heart. That's a mark of a good songwriter. I mean, I can't relate to the situation, but you're making me feel like I'm in that situation. So let's talk about you as a songwriter now, David. You said that even when you were going to church, you already started writing gospel songs. So let's understand that. We know how you ended up falling in love with singing, but how did you end up writing beautiful songs with lyrics like hindi ba nila alam ako rin ay tao lang sa likod ng mga ngiti ako rin ay nasasaktan. I love this line you have, ako'y nananalangin na masilayan, mundong pantay ang pagtingin. This is my favorite line from Pantay. David, I'm struggling because I'm Bisaya. I struggle with Tagalog, but I love this line. Di hahamakin, di nagkamali ang may likha sa akin. David, you're a poet. You're a poet who writes stories, who writes music. How did you end up becoming a songwriter aside from writing gospel songs in elementary school?
I'm actually jack of all trades. I do a lot of stuff actually. I'm talented with a lot of things. And though I sang, I mean, I did sing growing up. I also wrote
Mhm.
poems. I wrote a lot of poetry, and I don't really have copies of them anymore. But as a child, even back in elementary, I wrote a lot of poetry, and it just came to a point that I attached melodies to the poetry. It's
Mm.
something like that, and I don't know. Ever since I've always written, I think. Well, I think the key to writing songs, um, in my experience, is authenticity, honesty.
Mm. Mm.
You have to write what's real because you
Mhm.
can't write about something you can't relate to and you don't believe in.
Yeah. Now, I'm really curious to know. We're both from Cagayan or a city, we're both Visaya, and that's
Hmm.
what we grew up speaking aside from English. I know you're from the same school, Corpus Christi, and they were very strict with English too.
Yes, one peso
So
per per
I
Bisaya
say that
word.
all the time. I say that all the time to people from Manila because they always wondered why I speak this way. And I'm like, well, growing up, we had to pay a
Uh-huh.
peso per Bisaya word. But we never got caught speaking in Filipino because I don't know about you, but I was bad at Filipino. But David, how do you write songs
It was a
perfectly
struggle.
in Tagalog?
It was a struggle writing in Tagalog. Yeah, because
Mm.
I've always been comfortable in English just because of where we where we studied, how we were trained. We couldn't speak in Bisaya because there's a 1 peso per Bisaya word. So,
Mhm.
but then there was a time that I realized that most people can't relate to English. I mean,
Yeah,
we can, but
it's true.
the general
Most
public
people.
can't. Yeah, that's why
Mhm.
I remember, like, even when I moved to Manila, a lot of people were saying that I'm maarte. Ang arte, ang konyo, English pa, may ganon. But
Mm.
I wasn't being maarte. It's just that I cannot speak Tagalog straight.
Mm.
I'm not fluent with Tagalog. And if I spoke in Tagalog, plus I had my accent, Bisaya accent, they'd laugh at me. So you had the choice of, like, whether you'd be laughed at, bullied for having an accent, or not being able to express yourself because you don't really know a lot of Tagalog words,
Mm.
or you can just speak in English. So, di ba? It's an obvious choice. You speak in English, and people felt that you're being marte. So, so I realized that most people have a difficulty relating or understanding or relating to English. So there was a time in my life where I only wrote in English. All my songs,
Mm.
especially the gospel songs, all in English. And then when I started to write pop songs or non-gospel, non-Christian music, I attempted to write in Bisaya,
Mm.
and then since I already moved to Manila, I started to write in Tagalog, which
Tagalog.
was even more challenging. Bisaya, it was okay. But my Bisaya is also limited. It's not that deep, but it's okay. It
Mm.
was okay. But Tagalog was super, super hard for me. The big help came from Raitan, my husband. Because,
Right.
yeah, I would ask him, what's the better word for this? Or when I told him this, he would always, like, he would always review my work, and he'd tell me if some phrases did not sound natural in Tagalog, or that's not how
Mm.
Tagalog people would say it. That's not how a word should be used and all that, or there's a better word for that. So, yeah. So he'd be a huge help to me when it came
So
to
he was
writing
your
in Tagalog.
Tagalog tutor.
Yes.
Amazing. Now, what's the process like in writing songs? Do you take a day? I never asked this earlier actually. What musical instruments do you play?
Keyboard. I play the keyboard. I'm not really very good at it. I know how to play
Mm.
basic chords. I know how to read notes, but very slowly. But I know how to use the keyboard, basically with chords. There's there's different ways of or how a song is born. Sometimes you're asked to do a song, to create a song.
Mm.
That's even more difficult because
Mm.
you don't really have the inspiration, but you have to do it because it's work. But I think the easiest path is when you're inspired or something or an idea sparks your interest. And usually
Mhm.
that idea comes from an experience, whether it's my experience or my friends or someone I just met, and that experience just struck me or inspired me, whether it's a happy
Mhm.
experience or sad experience. Like kahit kunwari man lang, um, the experience actually is from someone I know who was
Mhm.
who had a friend that she considered she considered a relationship already, although no labels.
Mm.
Until, yeah, so she supported him, she was always there for him, and then we saw that and when he she helped him get a visa and move to the US. When he was in the US, he got married, and
Oh
so that's
dear.
where the yes. So that's where the inspiration comes from. Like, I've always been there for you, but
Okay.
I realized that I'm not. We did not see each other the same way.
They weren't on the same page, hence the music video. I watched the music video for that. Check that out on YouTube, guys. Just key in kahit kunwari man lang. Now, what about Pantay? We know the inspiration behind Balang Araw, right? Your favorite song. You discussed it earlier. But
Mm-hmm.
Pantay is now what's going around on social media. I watched the music video as well. I found it really moving that you
Mm-hmm.
started off with your vows, actually your vow for Rai, and then you started singing. He started singing the first
Mm.
verse. What was the inspiration behind that song? Were you asked to write it, or did you
No,
have
I wrote it
a
years
spark of
ago.
inspiration? Mm.
I first want to say thank you to ABS-CBN and Star Music for the opportunity to pitch the song to them, and then for them to, saying yes and helping me market the song. Because on my own, I've been an indie artist, an independent artist for a long time, and it's when you're indie, you market it yourself, you do all the art
Mm.
cards yourself, the posters yourself, and all that. But Pantay going around is it's a huge help is from ABS doing that for me. And of course, our social media following has also been a huge help. We are on TikTok,
Mm.
Ryan and I. It's at David and Ryan. Because of the
Mm.
our videos becoming trending on TikTok, we got to insert the song to promote it. But
Nice.
yeah, inspiration on the song. It's the song line by line is my life. It is
Yeah.
everything I experienced um, in my journey as a person from the from the LGBT community. And
Mm.
when I wrote it, I wrote parts of my life that I know uh, other people, other members of the community can relate to. So the song is actually a shared experience among people from the LGBTQ plus community, and
Mm.
it's genuine because I did not have to create anything that is imagined. I went through all
Mm.
that. I went through questioning why people felt that I was weird, that I acted differently, that even as a child people saw that I was different. I was bullied for that, and I've also experienced being told not to be true to yourself because you'll just
Mm.
be rejected, or it's not good, or God will not be happy, or it will be a curse for this society if you came out and became true to yourself. I've experienced that. I've also experienced being in a relationship and just letting go of that relationship in fear that God would strike us down because we were falling in love,
Mm.
or we were in love. So yeah, so all of it, every single part of that song is my life.
It's you. It's your
Mhm.
life. And that's why when I was thinking of a title for this episode, David, I really wanted to include that you are making a difference in many people's lives because when you're vocal about this, you make others realize that they can be as well and they shouldn't be afraid to be who they are. Nung ako ay bata pa, lagi akong nagtataka. Sabi kasi nila ang kilos ko ay naiiba. I mean, these words are so powerful. Salot daw sa mundo, wag nang lumabas ng kwarto. Malas lang kung ako raw ay magpapakatotoo. How did you overcome this? I watched one of your interviews when you mentioned that for Rai it was easy for him to come out because
Mhm.
it wasn't really coming out. His family already accepted him. But in that video, you also mentioned that it was harder for you, and I'm
Mm.
sure that there are others out there who might listen to this or watch this and who feel the same way because I still hear that consistently. People still in fear of not being themselves. How did you overcome that fear that are reflected in the first verse of Pantay?
Yeah. I mentioned earlier that I grew up in a very, very conservative family.
Mhm.
Um Religious family. We were almost always in church. And it was a very difficult thing to be me in that
Mm.
kind of environment. Um I was even very emotional earlier because something came up and then we were talking about these things. But I remember last month, my mom and I were driving in CDO, and she was telling me about this pastor
Mm.
who was giving her this sermon and rebuking her because of how she was tolerant of me. And I was silent actually because I didn't know how my mom would how the conversation was gonna progress. I felt like maybe she'll also sermon me.
Yeah.
But she said she said that she answered the pastor back asking him, "What do you want me to do? Do you want me to abandon my own child? Do you
Mm.
want my child to die? My own son. That's my own son. What do you want me to do?" And
Yeah.
it struck a chord in me because I don't get the hate. I really
Mm.
don't get the hate. Um, I get emotional with these things, but I've learned to overcome when I have made peace with God in my own personal time and made peace
Mm.
with God and just embracing the truth that God loves me.
He
That no
does.
matter what these people who say they represent God, no matter what they say about me, the rocks they throw at me, what matters is God Himself. And for me, it took a long time. They say is about um, coming out is about being true to yourself and sharing yourself to the entire world, like uh,
Mm.
admitting that, hey, I'm gay, and telling that to people. But you know what? The most difficult part of coming out isn't when you express to people, this is who you are, please accept me. No, that's not the most difficult thing yet. The most difficult thing is when you yourself embrace yourself. Because a lot of times, for many people in my community, we have not accepted ourselves, and that's where the sadness, the depression comes from. Because you've been told, I mean, growing up, here's the thing, here's what these preachers do. They're on that
Mm.
pulpit, they preach people to reject and hate people like me. That's what they do when they're
Mm-hmm.
preaching on the pulpit. But here's another thing that they do. Someone in that audience is a small child who
Yeah.
knows that he or she is different. And every time I hear that, you preaching, you're also teaching me to hate myself.
Mm.
You're teaching me that God hates me. You're teaching
Yeah.
me that God rejects me. And that's what I remember growing up because I was silent. Even the times that I wasn't out yet, even the times that I didn't really say that I was gay and nobody knew, or people saw that I was different, but it wasn't something out in the public. So I was silent in the audience, in the congregation, and someone would be preaching in front and slamming on the pulpit, saying that someone who's gay is never worthy to be a minister of Christ, and that hurt so much because
Mm.
I loved the church. I love serving in church. I love writing gospel songs, and I felt like, no, God is not happy with you. And for the longest time, I believed that. And I had
Mm.
to go through the painful process of breaking through that chains and unlearning all those things that was taught to me that I am rejected by God. I had to unlearn that. I had to reach to a
Mm.
point and say, no, stop it. God loves me. And and until it was only until that point when I was silent and I was praying and in my heart I just received God's love. It was only then that I had that peace. And when I had
Mm.
that peace, no matter what these people say, it doesn't matter to me because I know he who matters the most has accepted me.
I'm glad you know that, David. Can you can you say now in certainty that you have embraced yourself and who
I
you
have.
are? Great.
I have. And
And
that is
it
this is why I'm stepping out. This is why I'm writing these songs. This is why I'm not afraid. You know what? We could have chosen to keep our wedding video private because it was a private
private.
affair. It's a private occasion. And even the song, I'm already on the my foot is on the doorstep with Star Music. I could always write a song that is not about LGBT. I could write something else. But I chose to
Mm.
do this because I want to be visible, not because
Yeah.
I want to be famous, but I want Ryan I and this community to be
Community.
visible. Why? because I want the young child, that child in the congregation, I want him to see that it's okay to be you, that there's nothing wrong with you.
That's why my biggest wish for you is to keep writing songs. I may not be a part of the LGBTQ community or family. I'm a big supporter of it. I have a lot of best friends and family who I consider, friends who have become family, who are part of it. And that's exactly what they say as well. David, they say that growing up, they hated themselves. And that's what they had to unlearn, like you. And so many of you, the young ones in this community, are still going through it. So thank God for your music, because you are reminding each and every child out there who's going through what you went through and my friends and family went through. You're reminding them that you are who you should be, who God made you to be, and you are loved. So again, thankful for your music, thankful for you sharing it, because even for people who are not part of the community like myself, when I listen to your song, I'm moved to tears because I remember, we should remember that everybody should have the right to choose who they love, should have the right to choose who they are. And that's what your music does. I'm going to ask about what the future for you as a songwriter and singer will be like, but I know you prepared one last song. So before we move on to another set of questions, David, are you ready to share another song with us?
Yes, I am. The song is Pantay.
I'm so
Time.
glad it's Bantay because I really love the song, David. I think it's one of the best songs I've listened to. So I'm going to shut up now and just leave you on the screen. You can tell us about it, although we've talked about it heavily already. Tell us about the song and, just take it away.
All right. It's a duet actually. It's featuring my husband Raitan. But for this episode, I'm gonna sing it solo, and it's a song about equality, as the title says. It's a song that says there's nothing wrong with who I am, and God loves me just as I am. I hope you like it. Noong ako ay bata pa, lagi akong nagtataka. Sabi kasi nila ang kilos ko ay naiiba. Salot daw sa mundo, wag nang lumabas ng kwarto. Malas lang kung ako raw ay magpapakatotoo. Hindi ba nila alam, ako rin ay tao lang. Sa likod ng mga ngiti, ako rin ay nasasaktan. Ako'y nanalangin na masilayan mundong panahon pagtingin di ahamakin, di nagkamali ang may likha sa akin. Hindi ba nila alam, ako rin ay tao lang. Sa likod ng mga ngiti, ako rin ay nasasaktan. Minsan ako'y nagmahal, tunay ang usilang, ngunit pinaghiwalay dahil raw ito'y makasalanan. Nais ko mang lumigaya, ngunit paano nga ba maging matapang sa isang mundo na mapanghusga? Hindi ba nila alam, ako rin ay tao lang. Sa likod ng mga ngiti, ako rin ay nasasaktan. Ako nanlalangin na masilayan mundong pantang pagtingin di hahamakin, di nagkamali ang may likha sa akin. Hindi ba nila alam, ako rin ay tao lang. Sa likod ng mga ngiti, ako rin ay nasasaktan. Umaasa ako sa isang mundo pantay tayo. Sana may kasama sa pagbabago, magbubukas din ng mga puso sa lalo. Ako nanalangin na masilayan mundo panay ang pagtingin di hahamakin. Hindi nagkamali ang may likha sa aking ako'y nanalangin na masilayan mundo panay ang pagtingin di hahamakin. Hindi nagkamali ang may likha sa aking. Hindi ba nila alam kung kami pagbibigyan, tunay na pakikinggan, mundong bantay ay magkakamtan. Thank you.
Someday, David, that will be true if it isn't already. Hindi nagkamali ang I'm so bad at Tagalog, but that line is really so beautiful. God did
Hindi
not make a
nagkamali
mistake.
ang may likha sa akin. Yes.
Hindi nagkamali ang naglikha. Ang may
Ang may likha.
never mind.
Yeah.
Ang may likha sa akin. I think that's such a beautiful line. And that's such a beautiful song. And you have such an amazing skill to sing. And you don't always come across people who can sing as well as you and then who can write songs as beautifully as you do. So you're one of a kind. You're truly a gem. David
Thank you.
Mercado-Tan. What else is there that you wish to accomplish in the musical field?
Ah, you know what? I've been taking everything no, wherever the universe takes me.
Mhm.
Whatever comes. I, I've I've learned not to overthink things and just to do things that I really like and do it with your heart, with your best. So I'm gonna keep writing songs. I'm gonna keep singing, and wherever
Mm.
that takes me, we'll just be thankful and we celebrate. I'm really enjoying being a husband to Rai. I'm enjoying that we
Aw.
just moved to a new house and I'm just living the married life, privacy of our married life, and just that,
And being Lucia's
whatever
fur dad
comes.
as well.
Yes, she's sleeping already.
Where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years? I know it's like a full circle if I listen to that answer. When I asked you when you started loving music and started performing, you said, I just did it because I love it. And you're back at that place where you're just doing it because you truly are passionate about it. And you let the universe take you to where it will take you. But where do you think you and Rai will be and Lucia will be in 5 to 10 years?
Oh, in 5 to 10 years, I hope. Not this is not in music anymore, right?
Just
um,
generally.
yeah, generally, we really hope that because Rai works at a corporate company.
Mm.
We hope one day he could just retire so we could just be at home. Yeah. Rai works as an accountant for a corporation. We hope that someday he could just retire so we could just focus on being at home, raising Lucia, and maybe a child in the future. I don't know if the universe does bring that to our path, but we do plan to have even a small business that we can be busy with. And just that, you know what? Our dreams are simple, just retiring and maybe baking and cooking and gardening in our
I
home.
love
That's
that.
all.
Well, I
Peaceful
pray I
life.
pray that that happens, but I also pray that even when that happens, you're still writing music because you are destined for it. Thank you so much, David, for saying yes today. I was nervous about asking you
Oh my
because this
gosh.
is just a personal podcast, but thank you for sharing your story and sharing Lucia and sharing your music as well. Before we wrap up today's episode, David, any advice for aspiring musicians out there? You've been an indie musician for a long time, as you said earlier on, and it takes a lot of effort to make it
Mhm.
in this industry, especially in the Philippines. So, what's your advice for musicians out there who also want to be able to share music the way you do now?
Mm. Um, I think one shared experience amongst musicians and artists is we are very in touch with our emotions. That's why we're able to create music and be emotional on stage and just You know, we're that kind of um, people, and because of that, we're also prone to a lot of depression and
Okay.
discouragement and sad times and moments where you just aren't inspired to write or make songs or sing songs. Know that you're
Mm-hmm.
not alone. Even the biggest stars go through that.
Mm.
What you have to do is take one day at a time. Someone once taught me, I think it was Jim Paredes, who said, it's not your job to write songs beautifully. Your job is to write songs.
Period.
Don't
Mm.
worry. Don't worry about pleasing people or making amazing songs. Just keep writing. Just keep doing what you like to do. That's all.
Mm. I love that. Thank you so much for doing what you do and for sharing that bit with us today. And again, for sharing your music, being so generous in performing for us on Let's Talk. I hope that we'll have you again in the future. And a big thank you to
Yes.
all of you who listened in and enjoyed David's music with me as well on this episode. Now, don't forget to like this video if you're watching on YouTube, comment below, subscribe to the channel, or follow us on Spotify. And speaking of Spotify and YouTube, David, you want to invite them to follow you and Rye? I know you have a YouTube channel and I know you have Spotify as well and TikTok. So feel free to invite them now.
On on TikTok we are at David and Rye. We do mini vlogs there. On Facebook, David and Rye. On YouTube, it's David and Rye. And on Instagram, it's David Mercado officially. In Spotify, yeah, David Mercado. You'll find more songs, even those that were released independently in the past. So David Mercado on Spotify. It's also my songs are also on iTunes and other music platforms. Thank you so much, Jamie, and thank you everyone.
Thank you, David. And thank you, yes, everyone, for joining us today. Don't forget, next Friday, we'll have a fresh episode for you guys to enjoy. So let's talk Fridays, 5 to 6 p.m. Till next time. Bye, everybody. Love and light. Bye, David. Take care.
Bye.
Thanks so much for joining us. That was our deep dive convo on Let's Talk for this week. Till next week, don't forget, Let's Talk, Fridays, 5 to 6 p.m.